Good morning. Thank you all for joining us and taking the time to watch this webinar. My name is Dan Richards, and in the first in this series of webinars, I'm going to talk about fax over IP. I'll try to keep this sharp and to the point, as I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I'm sure you're all very busy. If you have any questions during the presentation, please ask through the questions facility, and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Okay. The agenda for today, I'll give an introduction to our company and explain why fax remains important. Then we're going to give an overview of fax over IP technology and its benefits. We'll also be introducing our product, RightFax, and Richard, our technical manager, will be giving a short demonstration of the product. So firstly, a little bit about our company. So we are a platinum partner and distributor for the entire range of open text fax server solutions. And we've been doing this for over 20 years, and we have over 2,000 fax server customers. Our suppliers, OpenText, are by a significant margin the world leader in both fax server and fax over IP solutions. And in fact, as you can see here, they've sold over 100,000 servers worldwide. We've got two products for fax server, RightFax and Fax Appliance. RightFax is the software-only fax over IP solution, which we'll be talking about later in this presentation. And Fax Appliance is a hardware, all-in-one, appliance-based fax server solution. I think that our experience in this area enables us to give you the best possible advice on implementing fax servers. And it really does make us a safe bet if you're looking to implement a fax over IP solution. So why is fax important? Why are over 200 billion pages still faxed every year? Well, the fact is that fax remains the trusted delivery mechanism for time-critical, crucial business documents. It's still the biggest standard for secure document transfer. And I think the reasons for this are, firstly, it's legally acceptable and considered binding, and therefore used for transmitting sensitive information. And the guaranteed delivery it provides and the security are probably the reasons for that. It also has a huge install base which covers the entire globe. What is a fax server? I'm sure most of the people watching this are familiar with fax servers, but I just wanted to give a very quick overview. So a fax server is a central server-based solution that will handle all of your fax traffic for the organization through a central system. It provides central storage, security, and audit trail, connects centrally to your fax lines, and then it sits on the network, connecting with the necessary systems on your network. So users can send and receive faxes from their desktop, either via the client software or through their email system. If you need hard copy faxing, then it will integrate with multi-function devices to allow you to walk up and send and receive faxes, which will still go through the central server. And also it can support production faxing by integrating with back-office systems. Do any of these form part of your organization profile? If you have any of these objectives, then I think you may well be interested in fax over IP. So reducing IT and telephony costs, as well as call costs, leveraging existing IT infrastructure, or if you're moving to a centralized model for systems and data centers, if you're virtualizing your core applications, or if you're aiming to remove the fax hardware, which could be fax machines or fax cards. So the next section of the presentation is going to explain the basics of fax over IP. I think if you're watching this, then you've probably already moved over to a voice over IP phone system, or else you're planning that migration. Fax over IP will allow you to leverage that existing investment, and to be honest, requires very little additional equipment. So in this diagram, it shows a traditional fax server setup. So the fax server will have fax cards. These will be connected directly to the PSTN phone lines. And the protocol used for sending and receiving faxes is T30. So T30 is the language of fax. It's the standard protocol that's used for all fax communications, and that's true really regardless of whether it's an old fax machine or a modern fax over IP system. Then moving on to T38, fax over IP. So T38 is the additional protocol that's introduced with fax over IP. And you'll also now have a voice over IP phone system or an open text fax gateway, as shown in this diagram. So the fax server now has no fax cards and is not connected directly to the phone lines. It now communicates with the phone system over the IP network using the T38 protocol. The phone system or gateway will then convert the T38 to standard T30, which, as I said, is the traditional, the language of fax. It effectively unwraps the T30 packets from the T38. From the point of view of the receiving device, it just sees another T30 device sending or receiving a fax on the other end. It has no way of knowing whether that's an old fax machine or a state-of-the-art fax server VoIP system, as it's all using the standard T30. And it just goes to show that T30 is absolutely still crucial in a fax over IP scenario. One other point that's worth mentioning is that within T38 there are two signaling protocols, and you need to make a choice between them. These are SIP and H323. You can use either with RightFax, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter which you choose. However, the signaling protocol selected, you do need to make sure that it's supported and enabled on your phone system. At the end of the day, if the two sides don't agree on the protocol, then they won't be able to talk to each other and the fax will fail. With RightFax, we can provide everything you need to implement VoIP. So we have a native fax over IP connection with most of the major IP telephony brands. So, for example, as you can see here, with Cisco, Avaya, ShoreTel, Mitel, and so on. So this means we can deliver all of the benefits of moving away from a traditional telephony situation to an IP-based system. And we can natively connect into that solution using our RightFax software. OpenText also have a full line of purpose-built fax gateways. And these really complement our software-only VoIP solution. They're designed to work with both T38 and RightFax, and they make implementing VoIP very easy. Another great benefit with RightFax is that it's 100% software-based. This means that it requires no physical hardware. It enables the fax server to be virtualized. And we're finding that many of our customers are moving away from physical servers, and they want to take advantage of virtualization. And we can achieve this because RightFax has integration with Hyper-V and VMware, and allows you to gain the benefits of consolidating your hardware. It also means that you get the benefit of the high availability and redundancy options that are standard within these virtual environments. This next slide shows how the combination of RightFax and OpenText fax gateways allows you to really simplify the deployment of fax to multi-site situations. This diagram is showing a scenario where there are two sites, head office and a branch office. But we only need to implement one central fax server solution in the head office. That then communicates over the company's IP network to the either a phone system or fax gateway in each of the local sites. So this means you don't need to have a fax server in the branch offices, while still gaining all the benefits of having local telephony breakout in those sites and being able to retain existing incoming fax numbers. So the next section of the presentation is going to show you some of the benefits of RightFax, and to kick this off, Richard is going to give you a quick demonstration of the software.
Okay, thanks Dan. So the purpose of this demonstration is really to show you some of the applications that come as standard with RightFax. These applications can be used by end users to send faxes, to view their received faxes, and in general just manage their fax information. So I'm going to start off with a method of faxing that we call print to fax, and this utilizes a virtual print driver that can be installed on the user's workstation or laptop, or perhaps installed on a XenApp server or something like that. The great thing about using a print driver is, one, it can work with any document type or any application that has a printing feature, and secondly, it's really simple for the end user. So if I was working away on this Word document and needed to send it out as a fax, all I'd need to do is bring up my printing options, make sure my RightFax print driver was selected, and then hit print. That's going to bring up a fax information dialog window that's just prompting me for my recipient fax information, so I could go ahead and manually enter in some the fax number in the fax number field. But if I knew my contact was in my address book, I can just pull that information through. I can then go on and add some cover sheet notes. So this is text that's going to be placed on the message part of my cover sheet. I can add more attachments. So on the list there, you'll see there's one item, which is the document that I've just printed, but I could browse my network for some other Office documents, some image files, PDF files, things like that. I can grab a document that's stored directly on RightFax that we call library documents to save me browsing around the network. Or if I do have that hard copy document that I need to pull into the application, then I can load it up onto my Twain enabled scanner, and using this button here I can just pull that straight through into the application. As well as that, I've got some more advanced options, so I can change the priority of my fax, I can change the cover sheet perhaps that I'm using. And it's probably worth mentioning at the moment this dialog box looks pretty busy, there's quite a lot of options on there. But depending on what edition of RightFax you have, we can customize this on a group level, so we can completely remove options that we don't want our users to see, just to make it as a simple process as possible for them. But once we're happy with that, all they have to do is click send, and as a user of RightFax, I can now trust that RightFax is going to take that document, it's going to convert any attachments I've added into a faxable format, it's going to pull down all of my own user details onto my cover sheet. Perhaps it's going to get those details from Active Directory or from another LDAP source. It's going to handle any retries or resubmissions to get that fax sent out successfully. And it's also going to let me know when that fax is sent or if there was a problem sending that fax. The way it does that is by sending me some kind of notification. Now, that notice could come in a number of different formats. It could be a text message, it could be a pop-up on my desktop, it could be a printout on a printer that I happen to sit next to, but more often than not, it's probably an email alert coming straight back into the user's mailbox, letting them know what happened. So hopefully in my Outlook client, I'll get a notice just to say that that fax has succeeded, but while we wait for that, there's an example here. I've got, in the body of the fax, I've got some transmission data to say the fax has successfully sent. I've been configured to receive a copy of that fax as a PDF attachment. So that's the fax that was sent out that time. And RightFax, as well as sending success and receive notifications, can also send me an email receipt of a received fax as well. So with that in mind, it also makes sense that a user can send a fax directly from their mail client. RightFax has native integrations with Microsoft Exchange and Domino, which allow us to add in plugins or templates to the user's corresponding client. But we also integrate with any SMTP compliant mail server that you might have on your network. And we can integrate with any cloud-based solution you're using. So if you're using Office 365 or Gmail or something like that, then we can fax directly from them as well. Depending on what mail server you have or what mail environment you're using, the addressing might change slightly, but they're usually pretty simple. More often than not, the user will address it to a fax number and then choose some kind of domain or address space that we set up on your mail server. So in this case, on my test system, it's just send.fax. But like I said, it can be anything, like company name.fax is quite a common one. But once the user's addressed it, they then go about composing it as though it's a normal email. So it can enter a subject line. The body of the email would be the body of the cover sheet or the first page of my fax. And again, they can go away and attach any documents they need to send out, office documents, image files, portable documents, whatever it might be. And then they just have to hit send. And RightFax is going to take it from there. Now, as I said, with Exchange and Notes, we do have plugins that can be installed on the client. So along the top ribbon bar, you'll see that I've got a RightFax option, send a fax. And this will allow me to address the fax with some more advanced addressing options, so I can choose different cover sheets, pull back from corporate phone books or my personal phone book, things like that. Outlook plugin also has a fax status, so I can, on a real-time basis, see the status of my faxes, so the one that I just sent out, for example. We can view them directly from here as well, so we can see what it looked like. So we have a nice integration with email systems, but we also have a client application that you can install. It's not often installed on every user's workstation, but it's quite useful if you have users or departments that use faxing quite heavily. As you can see, our client install is called FaxUtil, and it's a Windows-based client. It's quite simple and intuitive. On the left-hand side, we've got our folder structure, which allows users to create their folders so they can manage their fax information. On the right-hand side, we've got the faxes that are available within those folders. And along the top toolbar, we've got the sort of actions you'd expect. So we can create a new fax, which brings up the fax information dialog window that you saw before. We can delete a fax. We can view the fax. We can print the fax to a network printer or a printer that can be configured server-side from RightFax if you're from a remote location. We can OCR the document, so RightFax has quite a powerful OCR engine, so we can OCR this just to get the text out of that fax image. We can forward it to another RightFax user, we can forward it to another fax machine, or we can route it to a user. And we've also got an audit of fax as well, which I think is quite unique to RightFax. So every fax document that's sent and received will have its own audit trail. So if I view the audit of this fax, you can see the initial transmission data. You can see that it was viewed by myself. But if I was to open it up again and then look at the history, you can see that I viewed it for a second time. So we try and log as much as we can through the life cycle of the fax. Once I've viewed the fax, you've kind of got the normal viewing controls. So again, I can route it and forward it and deal with it directly from this viewer, but I can also, browse through the different pages. I can even add some annotations if I wanted to redact some information, for example, before I forward it on to a colleague. So that's the client application. Now, obviously, some people don't want to install the client. Even though you can roll it out as an MSI package, they might want to use a sort of a web browser alternative. RightFax has that. We actually have two web clients. We've got RightFax Web Access, which is the equivalent of the FaxUtil that I've just shown you. Again, it supports NT authentication and single sign-on. I won't go through all the options here because, as I said, it's pretty much the same as the FaxUtil client, but just a web-based version for IE. But I can see my folder structures. I can create my folders. I can view my fax images, see the history, create new faxes. Everything you can do in FaxUtil you can do through the web browser WebUtil as well. The second web client that we've got is called RightFax Web Client, and it was designed with simplicity in mind and for cross-browser and compatibility. So it's a much more simpler interface, but it's going to work across all browsers, whether using Opera, Safari, Chrome, Firefox, whatever you might be using. It's pretty neat. It's also been designed for use for mobile phones and tablet devices, so it's quite big buttons, so it's easy to navigate around. But you've got the main controls there of what you kind of expect. You can create a new fax, we can view the fax, we can forward it on and view the fax audit and things like that. So they're really the client applications or user interfaces that I wanted to show you, how a user can send and receive and manage their fax information. One thing we haven't talked about is how RightFax handles inbound faxing, and that's really achieved by a combination or a configurable routing method. So when a fax comes in, the first thing RightFax needs to do is save that fax into the relevant RightFax user account, and from there it can be delivered in a multitude of ways. But the way it decides which mailbox account to save the fax in can be, as I said, based on a number of different routing methods. RightFax supports channel routing, which is a very simplistic method. It's probably not used in a VoIP environment very much, but what we can configure is, say, every time a fax is received on a certain channel, it's then saved in a certain mailbox within RightFax. Another routing method that's more commonly used is DDI or DTMF routing. So we will look at part of the number that's been dialed and maybe take the last 3 or 4 digits, for example, and try and match that to a routing code that's configured within a RightFax user account and save it into that user's mailbox. We can route off the metadata of the fax, so we can look at the ANI or the CLI of a sending device and route it based on that. We can also look at the content of the fax. So as I mentioned earlier, RightFax comes with a pretty powerful OCR engine, so we can OCR the first page of a fax, look for pre-configured keywords and route it off, matching keywords. And with that OCR engine, we can also route using barcodes. So we can, if a barcode's on the first page of the fax, we can interpret that barcode and then again save it into the corresponding user within RightFax. Once the fax has been routed and it's saved in the right mailbox, that mailbox can then have configurable actions, so it can deliver or notify to in a number of ways. So if that mailbox represented a user, for example, it might just send it to that user's email account, but it could represent a process or an integration to a third-party product. So we could save the fax into a document management system such as Alchemy. We could save the fax into a collaboration tool such as SharePoint Document Library. We can really, because the fax is at that point a digital format, we can really save it and deliver it however you need it to be. So that's pretty much the end of my user demo. I'll hand you back to Dan.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, so another benefit with RightFax is that it's very modular. So we can build a solution that really fits exactly with your requirements. For example, if you wanted email integration, you might pick the Exchange connector. If you're looking to automate faxing from an ERP system like SAP, you might use the SAP module. We also have MFP modules for hard copy faxing, integration with most of the major brands. There's also other modules like Richard mentioned. We can support auto fax routing with barcode and OCR routing, which are additional modules. In addition to faxing, RightFax also allows the sending of text messages with the SMS module. I think one of the great things about RightFax is the pricing structure. There is no user licensing. The pricing is really based on the number of fax channels. And that means you can go with a solution that is tailored to exactly what you need, with only to handle the fax volume that you actually require. I think this is also a good point to mention that I know we have many of our FaxPress customers watching this presentation today, and we do have an excellent upgrade path from FaxPress to RightFax. And it should really cause minimal disruption to your users because the user interface is similar to what you would be using now. But at the same time, we can deliver a lot of additional benefits, not least of which would be the fax over IP and virtualization that we've shown here. If you're interested in any more detail on that, then please let us know or contact your account manager, and they'll get back to you with the upgrade options available. So why is RightFax the leader in enterprise fax? This slide really shows the strength of RightFax. As you can see here, the MFP, ECM, VoIP, and ERP brands, they've all done extensive work in creating integration with RightFax. RightFax really has the broadest range of integrations as well as strategic alliances, and this has really made it the world's leading fax server solution. This also means that we can deliver integration into almost any system that you want to fax enable. So in summary then, AMS and OpenText really are the fax experts. It is our core business, and we're focused on this on a day-to-day basis. So if you're considering implementing a fax solution, then we really are a great place to start. Fax over IP also allows you to leverage your existing IT and telephony infrastructure, and it can deliver big cost savings by replacing traditional fax technology. Also allows you to get rid of the fax hardware. So RightFax Fax over IP, being software only, removes the need for fax boards and therefore allows you to virtualize the fax system. And finally, RightFax is the market-leading fax server product. It's used by many of the world's leading organizations. It has a very wide range of integrations, including interoperability with the leading voice over IP phone systems. Okay, well that's the end of the presentation. So now I'm just going to go through some of your questions. So, okay, the first question we have, is RightFax tested with Cisco Call Manager? Richard, that's probably one for you.
Yeah, RightFax is tested with Cisco Call Manager. We have tech notes written by Cisco that detail the configuration required on the Call Manager and the different versions. Whether you're using SIP or HD23, Cisco Call Manager is definitely supported.
Okay, and can we please have a copy of the presentation sent to us? Yes, no problem, we'll get that over to you. And in fact, if anybody else is interested in that, then just let us know and we'll send that over. Does your product support billing to clients? Yes, in fact, RightFax has very powerful billing functionality. It's widely used by many of our legal customers who really benefit from that, as well as other features such as support for matter numbers and so on that make us quite strong in that industry. I've got a question here. Can you also have a company-wide address book? Richard, that's one for you.
Yeah, RightFax does support a company-wide address book. That can be an address book that's created within RightFax, or it can be a link to using an ODBC source to an existing database or Excel sheet or something like that.
What MFPs do you support? Okay, well we actually we have integration with most of the major MFP brands. And we can also work with any SMTP email-enabled MFP device. If you would like a full list, then just let us know and we'll get that over to you, or let us know which particular models you're interested in, and we can give you information on that. Is there any support for Zen Server as the hypervisor for your system?
Certainly Zen Server supports our client installations as a Zen app. as the host of RightFax for the virtualization, RightFax supports VMware 3.0 and above. So I'd have to look to see whether it's actually ever been on a Zen server.
Okay, and another question, can this integrate with SIP trunks?
Yep, certainly. That's primarily how we'd want to do it. So using the SL140 borderless dialogic software, RightFax can integrate over a SIP trunk to your IP phone system or IP gateway. We also support SIP trunking. So SIP providers such as VoIP Unlimited, they've all been tested and proven to work with RightFax.
I might also add to that we have interoperability with a number of the SIP providers, and in fact we've just recently completed interop testing with VoIP Unlimited, so we've got some great options there if you're looking for that functionality. Another question, can you brand the fax cover sheet?
Yes, you can. The fax cover sheets are designed in Microsoft Word and then just uploaded to the server. So you can add all your logos and company information. The cover sheets can either be corporate or user or on a group level. So you can brand them company-wide or departmental or on a user basis.
Okay. Does it work on a terminal server link?
I think what you're asking is whether the client softwares and the applications work on terminal server. If that is the question, then yes, they do. We support most versions of Citrix and XenApp and through RDP, so yes.
Is there an integration with Sage France, Sage 100?
We do have integration with Sage, SAP and Oracle. Whether that's just using sort of the print drive or whether that's using a RightFax integration module to automate the process, we'd have different integrations, yeah.
We are using the drop file solution of the FaxPress. Is this supported? So I assume that's referring to the drop fax functionality.
Yep, RightFax has the same feature, so when an inbound fax comes in, we can drop that fax. In fact, it has a bit more functionality, so you've got more options about choosing the file name, and you've got more formats which you can drop the fax in. So what's quite nice with RightFax, we can OCR that fax and drop it as like a searchable PDF, which is great when you're integrating with sort of document management systems or collaboration tools that have full text search and things like that.
Does the SMS function integrate with Outlook Calendar to send appointment reminders to clients?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, Denise, so I might have to get back to you on that. Certainly RightFax has an SMS function. You can send and receive text through Outlook, through the plugin. Whether that integrates with appointments, I'm not too sure.
Is testing going to be completed with Gamma Telecom? I'm not sure what the plans are with that one. So I think we'll have to get back to you on that one. Do you need the fax gateway when you have a SIP or H323 between your VoIP system?
No, you don't. The fax gateway is only used when we're integrating with traditional telephony, but you still want sort of your RightFax in a virtualized environment using the SL140 licenses. So if your phone system is IP enabled, then OpenText RightFax server will talk directly to the phone system.
Okay, great. And the question we had before about drop fax, in fact, it's confirmation here that it's actually referring to outbound faxing.
Okay, so RightFax has quite an advanced integration module that can replicate the features of the drop directory that you're using with FaxPress, and in fact you wouldn't even have to change any of the codes or the commands in the command file that you're dropping with the image or the document that you're sending out.
Okay, and do you offer product trials? The answer to that is yes, we do offer that. So just get in contact with us if that's of interest, and we can talk through your requirements. Well, I think it looks like that's all the questions we have. So I'll wrap up. We've only had a short time to talk through some of the benefits of RightFax and a very brief demo from Richard. So if you're interested in seeing more, or you have any other questions regarding Fax over IP, please let us know and we'll arrange a more in-depth demonstration for you. We'll also soon be letting you know dates for the further sessions in this webinar series. Thank you again for your time.